Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our hangout on making your college choice. We're really excited to have you join us, and we have 5 panelists today, all Quest scholars, who will be talking more about how they made their college choice. Some logistics. If you want to ask questions throughout, you can type in your questions on the right side of your screen, and you can also upvote questions that you would like to have answered. So upvote them to the top, and we will answer them more quickly. Some logistics also. One thing we're going to be doing today is we're not going to be mentioning the names of schools that we were admitted to but did not decide to attend. That's on purpose, and you might notice that throughout our conversation. And that's because we want to focus on where we decided to attend, and we also know that each person watching today was admitted to a different variety of schools, and each person has different characteristics about them that make their ultimate college decision different. We want to focus on the fit of finding the right school for you, not why we chose a certain school over another. So that's the main thing today, finding the school that's really the right fit for you. That's going to be different for each person. So we're going to introduce ourselves now and go ahead and get started. My name is Erin. I am on the QuestBridge staff. I'm also a Quest Scholar. So I graduated from Northwestern University in 2014. I studied social policy while I was at Northwestern. And when I was making my college decision, I was deciding between two schools, Northwestern, obviously, and another school that was not a QuestBridge partner. One of the main things that made my decision really easy was the financial aid packages that came in. This really made my decision quite easy. And another thing was the rigor of courses and the social policy program at Northwestern, which is one thing that I was really, really interested in. Okay, Angela, you wanted to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Angela. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I moved there from Korea about 10 years ago. I'm a freshman at Yale. Right now I'm interested in women's studies and history as a major. I don't really know yet. And then what I was thinking about when I was deciding on colleges were probably two things. Like the financial aid packages obviously was obviously a huge factor, but they were about the same. So really what I was looking for was the academics and the social, how should I say this? The kind of like the social atmosphere of the campus in terms of issues like race, like diversity and so forth. And I was like also really big in like social justice issues, like still am. But and so like what's the LGBTQ community like and so forth. And so that was really what I was looking at. Yeah.
Great, Vicky.
Hi. I'm a senior at USC, and I'm from Orange County, California. One of the deciding factors for me for colleges was, I'm majoring in biological sciences, and one of the deciding factors for me was definitely location wasn't an issue for me because the other school that I wanted to go to was like really close also. So it was definitely financial aid. And also just getting to feel the campus, and after I visited both campuses, I kind of just got this feeling that it was like more welcoming at USC, and so I just felt like definitely visiting the campus had made a difference for me.
Yeah. Cool. Stanley?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Stanley. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I go to Brown University, and I'm a junior. I study history, and some of the things that I was thinking about when deciding on what college I wanted to attend were location, which was a big one for me, because I knew I wanted to go to college out of state, and so I was looking at, and I knew I didn't want to go to college in a rural area. I wanted to be in at least like a mid-sized city. And so the other big thing that was really important for me, outside of financial aid, which everyone has mentioned, as being a super crucial factor, was the kinds of academics. So could I study what I felt like I was interested in, but also again, campus environment. Did I feel like the campus climate and the kinds of students at the university were the kind of people I could see myself spending 4 years with and being happy?
Okay, Hannah?
Hi guys, my name's Hannah, and I am a current sophomore at Yale studying biochemistry and biophysics. I'm also a pre-med. I'm from Seattle, Washington as well. I think one thing, again, that the other Yale students said that really made me fall in love with my campus was the social atmosphere. I think I really clicked with the students, and just seeing them interact with each other when I came to visit campus was kind of the deal sealer for me.
Great. Ashley?
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley. I'm from Chicago. I'm a junior at Pomona College. I'm a media studies major, and basically I can just reiterate what everyone else said, but financial aid was definitely a big thing. I wanted to go out to a school out of state because I'm from Chicago, so I wanted to kind of expand my horizons. But what's kind of different from my school is it's a really small school, and that's something that I really, really wanted. I come from a high school that's like only 900 students total, so I knew I wanted to go to kind of like a small-ish school, and what that creates is a more like more people, and like it creates a smaller like kind of close-knit environment versus a lot of other schools. So that's what I was really interested in, and yeah, also location for me, it's like California, so sunny. It's not today, but depending on how the day it is.
Okay, great. So, I mean, obviously there are a huge range of factors that you can look at when deciding what college is right for you. So we're going to go ahead and take the first question that's been entered here. And it's just a reminder to everyone, you can enter questions on the right-hand side and upvote them if you're interested in hearing the answer, and we'll be answering them throughout. So the first question is, what should I be looking for when visiting campuses? I'll be visiting Davidson tomorrow and Emory over the weekend and would like to know where to focus my attention. Do you guys have any experience going on those campus visits and trying to get the most out of them?
So I'm guessing these aren't admit weekend programs. Like I'm thinking they're just going like on their own. Is it right?
I mean, I think we could answer it as either, because especially a lot of admit weekends will be happening really soon.
Well, for me, like I mostly went to admit weekend, like programs and so forth, and they gave out like a little handy little like pamphlet of all the scheduled events and so forth. And so, like I said, I was really looking to academics, and so I think this one school had actually allowed the visiting students to sit in a lecture, which was like really helpful, and I really liked that a lot. And so like if they're offering those, and if that's something that you're interested in, then you should definitely go. And then yeah, I would just like highlight all the things, like I was interested in humanity. They had a humanity panel, so I went there and so forth. And so yeah, I think that was really helpful for me. And then I think usually they also host events at like cultural houses, or like I think like Yale probably has something at like the Office of LGBTQ, stuff like that. And so that's something again that I was interested in. So those are the events that I was looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just be really sure to seek out, like specific things that you really want out of your college experience, whether it be something academic or something extracurricular. I knew I really wanted to be involved in the cheerleading team, so I seeked out, how involved is the cheerleading team, and how big are they on campus, and things like that, and again, cultural community, and just to, look out really like key things, and not be afraid to ask questions and explore.
Yeah,
maybe even.
You can go.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, for me, I came to my college during like October. They had like a fall weekend, and that kind of changed the game for me, like going to the college tour, because I feel like you really can't know the college atmosphere until you're actually there. So I suggest, like, if you can visit any school before you make your decision, try to do that. And just for me, like, what I was looking for was, first of all, like, being with the different students, and like, I don't know, it was just like the social atmosphere was really, really cool here, and like it was a place where I felt like I like really admired the people who were here. Like I really respected them. I felt like they were doing really great things, and they were all really successful. They cared about their like academics, but they also cared about having like their social life. So like I felt like I could fit in with that. So like I kind of based it off of like a lot of the student interactions that I had. So I would ask as many questions as possible to the students.
Yeah, I was going to say just that, like, talking to other students and asking them like what are you involved in, and like just hearing everyone's story and seeing what what they have achieved, especially even asking both the freshmen and the seniors, and seeing like what are the opinions from different classes too.
Yeah, and then I think just maybe a final point, like I think, like a lot of people have said, like think about what sorts of clubs or activities or that are specific to that school that you could see yourself getting involved in. So, for example, if you're visiting a school and you know you really want to be involved in environmental issues, find out what kind of environmental clubs they have on their campus, and see if you can like visit one of their events or someone else mentioned like visiting like a like cultural office, or LGBTQ center while you're there. So like try and like do your research beforehand to figure out, okay, when I'm imagining myself at this school, what can I see myself getting involved in, so that you can really make it specific to that school and target it, and that way you can sort of like that might give you a good point of comparison when you're looking at other schools. Like, oh, like I really like this one school's like center, but not this other school's as much. Or students answered questions about this particular thing very differently from how other students answered at another campus.
Yeah, definitely. I think another point, you guys have talked about asking questions, and I think one thing that's good to remember is that no one's going to remember you when you're taking that tour and you're asking questions. So ask them, and don't be afraid to do that, because they're not going to remember you and be like, oh, that was the person that asked that question that like didn't make any sense. No. Go ahead and ask your questions. Also do your research before, so you can ask questions where the answer is actually going to have some meaning to you and your decision. Do you guys have any advice for people who aren't able to visit the campus that they're interested in or they've been accepted to?
I think you should definitely try to get connected with the Quest chapter at each campus. They definitely have students that are very, very willing to kind of like help you through this process and talk to you. That was one thing that even when I did visit, I found really helpful, was to talk with Quest students at like specific Quest events. They kind of had like the same perspective as me when I was going in, so that was super cool.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think reaching out to the local Quest chapter is a really good start. I think the best thing you can do if you're able to visit on campus is to try and connect with current students. So that might be through, I think, again, like Quest is a great place to start. They're also, like, I did this, I don't know if you want to do this, but I would Facebook creep people. Like sometimes people have their stuff available, and I'm like, oh, they're involved in the newspaper. Like, let me just shoot them a Facebook message and see if they respond. And you'd actually be surprised. More than likely, like a lot of folks are really open to that because they're at their school, so they love it, and they probably want you to come as well. But I think that's probably one of the best things you can do is try and get in contact with a student who's already there, who might be able to help answer some of your questions and illuminate what that experience might be like.
Great. So we actually have a question here that really relates. So a student is trying to compare a college that she can visit, she's going to Bowdoin next week, and a college that she can't visit, Pomona. So obviously two very different sides of the country, but also two small liberal arts schools, right? So they might be pretty similar. Yeah. How do I make an as unbiased decision as possible? You guys have any advice? Because I know, as soon as you visit a campus, it's always you fall in love with the campus, right? Do you guys have any advice for this situation?
I mean, I try to figure out how to make an unbiased answer. So I would just say, like, since you're going to Bowdoin, I would say, like, like I said before, like, ask the students like how they feel about it. Try to like visit as many like clubs and stuff that you're interested in as possible. And I would say for like since you can't come to Pomona to visit, I would say like maybe take the virtual tour online and then like reach out to students like me. I can help you out and like ask us how it is. I don't know, maybe your financial aid packages are different and maybe you want to look into that. That may be a like, decision for you as well. But like I think from what I know from that school, I think you could get two different vibes from both of them. So like just seeing which vibe like you think you would fit better with.
And then I would say, so I did get to visit these two schools that I was thinking about. But let's see. So like I chose Yale, and I'm very happy with my choice. But when I when I did the admit programs for each school that I was going to, Yale was not the one where I had the best experience. Like there was this other school where I went and I just loved like all the people, and they were just so friendly, and like I would say that I had a better experience there. Mainly also like the weather was so much better. But anyway. But I did end up choosing Yale because, like I said, I knew what I wanted from the school. Like I knew that I was looking at academics, and like Yale has a great history, and with the women's studies program, like awesome. And then Let's see. I knew that the other school, although I had a really great experience at the end midweekend, like so academically they weren't they were much more STEM based and so forth, and so like I knew that it wasn't as good a fit for me, and so like I don't know, like after I did all the weekend visits, I just like kind of took a step back. I didn't make any decisions before when I was actually there, or like shortly afterwards. Like one of my friends, like on the admit weekend, like he just like he was just like, I'm going here, like he already bought like the school's like hoodie and everything, and I'm like, okay, like that's not me. So like I just took a couple of days to really think about it, and like even if you love to kind of like to calm down a little and then like make the decision then. And so I guess. And like even if you don't get to visit the campus, or even if you don't have the greatest time of your life on the admit weekend, like admit weekends are events, right? And so like whether you like it or not, like the year is what you make of it. And so like I think regardless, like you can still make a good choice even if you don't visit. I think like just take a step back and like try to think it out, like all the stuff that you're looking for into college. I think yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good piece of advice. One, which is like not feeling, don't necessarily feel as rushed to like make a decision. Like if you're like on campus, I know there's a lot of peer pressure because there's like not another group. Everyone's like, oh, are you coming? Are you coming? You make all these friends. But I do think it's a really good idea to like wait till you like get back home if you're able to travel to a school and have some time to process what your experience was like. Get down off that high a little bit and think about it. And especially if you're not able to visit a school, I think the other thing that can be very helpful is like at the end of the day, just sort of like trust your gut. Like the schools that you're picking between, like I think you're gonna have a great experience at like whatever school you decide to go to, and it's gonna be what you make it. So don't sort of feel like too much anxiety over it, because at the end of the day, like I think you're gonna have a great time in either experience. And so don't put too much pressure on it. Like it's an important decision, but at the end of the day, like there are a lot of really great colleges out there, especially the Quest schools.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with Stanley, because like I feel like you shouldn't beat yourself up for like trying to find that like one perfect school. Like you'll eventually, at the school that you go to, you'll eventually find like your own niche, and you'll fall in love with all the good things that the school has for you. But I landed in a somewhat similar situation, and I couldn't visit one of the schools that I wanted to, and so I ended up like I found like through a friend of a friend someone who went there, and so I asked that person like questions like, how is the campus atmosphere like, and it actually turned out pretty well, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think in this case, just trying to gather as much information as you can, and reaching out to Quest scholars at that school can provide a lot of, insight in making that decision. And another thing, looking at those two schools and a lot of our other partner schools, is that the geographic region might vary, and that might be something that's important to you. So you can factor that into your decision as well. Were you guys thinking about that at all when you were making your decision?
The geographical region?
Yeah, the geographical region, like the size of the town or the school.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. I think especially those two schools being on different coasts will have very, very different vibes. So kind of look into that too, like what surrounds a school, like what will you be able to do on the weekends and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, kind of on a different note, when you're, thinking about schools that might be really far away from you, really far away from home, how does that, how would that impact your decision? Or, if they're close to home, how would that impact your decision? And especially, how would you approach having that conversation with your family?
Ooh, that's a big one. So for me personally, like I said, when I was like thinking about where I wanted to go to college, I knew for me personally, like, and this is something you have to think about for yourself, like, are you the kind of person who wants to go to college far away from home, or are you the person who wants to be really close to home, or at least within, like, I don't know, like driving distance or something, so that like you can go home on the weekends or something like that if you want to. So like for me personally, again, like I knew that like I had lived in Atlanta my entire life, and I wanted to, like Ashley mentioned earlier, expand my horizons, see a different part of the country, like something I'd never been exposed to before. And so I think in approaching that conversation with your family, like obviously so my mom wanted me to go to school in Atlanta, but like so it was sort of a bit of a difficult conversation to have because like especially I'm also a first generation college student, so I was the first one who was like leaving the house and then like just like going off into this like pretty much like black box. Like she didn't know where I was going, so she had a lot of like anxiety around it too. But I think at the end of the day, like just like having your parents know that like you're trying to make the best decision for yourself and go to the place where you feel like you're going to be most successful and where you can be your best and do your best. And I think if you try and approach it that way, then that can make parents a little bit more sensitive. But I think also, especially for folks who are thinking about going to school really far away and knowing that your parents might not be supportive, having conversations about how you're going to keep in contact beforehand can also help ease the burden, right? So like some of the strategies that I've adopted since I've been here, which I wasn't really good at freshman year, where like I call a lot more. I call home a lot more, so that like eases the burden. My mom has figured out how to use Google Hangout. She can actually see my dorm room, and so it's not just like this like big scary thing. It's just like, okay, like wow, like I can see the bed my son is sleeping in, and that makes her feel so much better. So those are some of my suggestions.
So for me, like my parents wanted me to go to a school that was like 15 minutes away from my home, so it was like in driving distance. But then I obviously didn't want to be that close to home and didn't want to. I wanted to like try out like dorming, and I didn't want to commute. But I mean, like commuting saves a lot of money for housing, especially. So that and yeah, I definitely recommend like you know, having your parents even visit the school with you. So like if it's like far away, you know, have your parents visit with you so that they know exactly where you're going to, so that it's not like a mystery to them as to where you are, what you're doing, and just like what Stanley said, like keeping them in track, like you know, if so that they know what you're doing all the time and where you are, or like my parents, or sometimes I would be like studying at night and my parents would be like, my parents would be like, oh, like why are you outside at like 10 p.m. and I'm like, oh, well, this is normal in college to be like, outside, you know, really late at night. So yeah, just keeping them in making sure that they're on track of you. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to this next question that looks like a lot of people are interested in, and that is taking out a loan worth it? So before we get started, I want to say that there are lots of different types of loans. So we really want to, you know, like start off with that. There are many different types of loans. If you have a student loan that's included as part of your financial aid package, that is far different than taking out a private loan. Private loans get really messy really quickly. So by far, you know, advice from QuestBridge is student loans are much, much more advisable. That's loans from your college or from the federal government. That being said, student loans can vary pretty widely in how much they're for, right? So a student loan for $10,000 a year is way different than a student loan for $1,000 or $2,000 a year, right? So having prefaced our conversation with that, do you guys have were you facing those decisions? Do you have any advice for this type of situation?
I would say for me, I mean, I'm not matched, so I don't have the full 4-year scholarship. I don't pay very much for Pomona. My student loan is not like comparable to like a lot of people that I know. It's hard because it's like if you find a school that you really, really love, you just really want to go there, and it's like you have to take out a loan. Like it kind of just depends on like, I guess you would have to talk to your family about it and just think about it yourself. Cause my mentality was like, I'm gonna go where I want to go, and like if I have to take out a loan, like I'm gonna take out a loan. But like for other people, that's like something that's a bit more serious. So I think you should like talk to like your counselor or like your family about it. Cause I mean, financial matters are very, we know how it is as low income first generation students, like the financial aspect of college is very, very important. And I don't want to tell you to make a choice that may be wrong for you. So.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Ashley, you have great advice. You shouldn't be making this decision without, talking with your parents or your guardians. You can talk to your counselor; they might have good advice. But this is, loans do need to be paid back, so you do need to consider that. At the same time, if you're choosing between two schools that are very similar and you have a very small loan amount at one of them, but you think the fit will be much better, that's something that you might want to consider. But that's not something where we don't want to tell you to make that decision and take that loan unless you are fully aware of the implications and have talked with your family about that. So it's a tough decision, but the answer, it's not necessarily yes or no. It depends on your own situation. So, okay.
I'll put in one last plug.
Yes.
The other thing I would say is really important is make sure that you're talking to the financial aid advisor at that college, because it is it is absolutely your right to know exactly what your financial aid package encompasses. If you have any uncertainty whatsoever, talk to them and make sure that you understand it as much as possible. Because if you're taking out a loan for your freshman year, is that something you're gonna have to do every year? Because then a $5,000 loan, might compound if you need to take that out every single year, and that's something you want to know, and you want to know ahead of time. So the other, again, I would just stress, make sure that you feel like you have a full understanding of what your financial aid looks like at that school, and if that includes loans, how that process might look as well.
Also, just another plug, I know at least for my school, for example, people usually get packages from other places, and sometimes you can appeal the package that you get from your school and show them a package from another school who's they want you to, and they may drop, they may match what the appeal was just because you showed them this also really good school wants me too, and they offered me less money, can you do the same? And sometimes they do appeal it. So you always like Stanley was saying, talk to your financial aid department at the school you may want to go to, because they may can help.
Yeah, and something to remember about that is you want to approach that in the right way, right? You don't want to say, I think it's up to you to match this offer. If you really want to attend that school, but you won't be able to because of the financial aid offered, then you can kind of approach it in that way. But just always be respectful. You want to have a really professional relationship with the financial aid officer at your school. So be respectful. Remember, it's their job to help you, and they're trying to do the best they can, but sometimes their hands are tied. But that is good advice. And to Stanley's point again, you really want to make sure you understand every component of your financial aid package. It's very, very important to do. Okay. So we have more questions coming in now. And one of them, again, was related to financial aid. Someone's parents were wanting them to make a decision or to wait for financial aid to make a decision, but they feel pressure with May 1st deadline coming up. My personal recommendation would be to do as much research on everything except financial aid that you can right now, but wait for that financial aid information to come in, because it should come in before the May 1st deadline. Do you guys have anything to add to that? No?
Nope.
Yeah, just... No, go ahead.
No, wait. I wonder if it's I don't know if anybody's ever done this or whatever, but yeah, I mean definitely the financial aid decision should come before the deadline. But if you really can't make a decision, I wonder if you couldn't. No, I think I have heard of cases where students can reach out to to the schools that they're considering and say I'm having a really financial aid and so forth, and if you can contact them, I think sometimes they do grant you an extension for the deadline. I think I have heard of this. Don't quote me on it, but again, if you're having problems, not just on the specific issues of deciding before the deadline or whatever, just reach out, whether it's on your financial aid or whatever. I think it doesn't hurt, right? At the very least. So.
Yeah, and always again, just keeping it professional, making your request, and just kind of seeing what happens. So the next question we have is if we had trouble choosing between a school with more of an academic life than a social one, someone you want to have a good balance of, studying and getting out of your room. So actually, in my experience, I was able to sit in on classes at the two colleges I was considering. And the Questbridge partner college, Northwestern, it was an upper level class. It was very intense. It was, I didn't wind up taking it, but I wish I had time to do so. But it was very, the professor was very intense. It was very obviously a very rigorous course. But it was also something I was really interested in. It was education policy. And it was something that I'd never been able to even think about really in high school, or had classes that touched on it. So it was really exciting at the same time. And then I attended a course at the other school that I was considering. And to be honest, it was more of an introductory course, but a lot of the material stuff I was already very familiar with. So having those two experiences for me, made me realize that I was actually really interested in having classes that I was interested in and that were challenging me. That was something that was really important to me. So I think any school you go to, you'll be able to have somewhat of a social life. I think that will exist anywhere. But did you guys have, did that play a part in your decision?
I think for the schools that I was choosing from didn't have so much of a polarity in terms of academic and social life, but I feel like definitely I agree with you with asking people what do they do on the weekends or what do they do in their free time, and you'll find out that they still have a social life or an academic place. Schools or more academically rigorous schools would still have a social life too. So definitely just talking to the students and even the surrounding areas, what are there things that you can do in the surrounding areas at the school on a weekend? And, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would say to that that work-life balance or whatever balance academics and social life. I think that especially that in particular is really dependent on you. I think regardless of what school you go to, I think if you want to have regardless of the school's academic rigor, you can choose which classes to take, right? Or how many classes and so forth. And you can choose to go out every weekend or you can choose to stay in. And so I think would depend really on you. And so I wouldn't worry too much about it. And as Vicky said, I think that would also depend on you. But do you like to stay in, or do you like to go to restaurants, or do you like to go out to town to do stuff and stuff like that? And so that would be some things that I would be considering. But otherwise, I think regardless, I think you can make a good balance once you're in the school in the academic year.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, the Westbridge schools definitely are academically rigorous. But I think it's fun. It's a time in your life where you're really able to pursue something, be challenged, and you get a lot of really great experience in the classroom. At the same time, I think we could all say that we have there's a life outside of the classroom at each of our schools, at each of the Questbridge schools. But I think the real differentiating factor is kind of the campus atmosphere, what that outside of classroom life is like on campus, and would play more into your decision, I think, than just that balance. Okay, so the next question deals with prestige. How much did this prestige of your school shape your decision? So before we get started, each of the Questbridge schools is a really great school. Obviously they vary a lot between small liberal arts and the larger schools, but they are each a great school. And I think something to consider is that with the hundreds and thousands of colleges in the U.S., if you're choosing between one of these 35 schools, you're already at the top. But that being said, how did this factor into your decision?
Well, for me, Pomona isn't as known as the Ivy Leagues. That's just a fact. But I think for me, my mom was really I don't know, worried about me going to Pomona because it was she's you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to Ivy League school, all this other stuff. But I think it goes back to the personal fit and where do you feel you are most likely going to succeed, because I could be at an Ivy League school, but I could be hating it, you know? Like, you can't, I wouldn't base, this is me personally, but I wouldn't base my decision just on prestige, because there are tons of, like, small elite schools, or there are, like, a tons of, like, big schools that aren't in the Ivy League that are also prestigious, that are also elite, that will also offer academic rigor and, like, all these other things. So, like, you know, like it may not be mainstream knowledge about these schools, but like the people who matter, like the people who give jobs, they know about these schools. They know about all of them. So like, don't make it like the like leading thing on your decisions.
Yeah, so like I would just like basically echo that too. Like, I think the thing about prestige, you know, like sure, like you have like U.S. rankings and whatever, but like Ashley said, I think especially, you know, I'm interested in studying academia, so like let's say you're like looking for grad schools and so forth. I think like she said, like what popular like media or like, you know, this kind of like general like, you know, conception of what is prestigious isn't as relevant when you're actually like applying for jobs or when you're applying to grad school. Like they know, like, you know, prestige doesn't matter as much as you think if you're actually there. You know what I mean? And so like I wouldn't worry about it that much, because like the people who matter will know like how good your schools are, because like they're looking at the actual, like, you know, like the students and so forth, right? So yeah.
Definitely agree with that. Also, sorry, this is very distracting. I know. I'm sorry. Well, I would definitely agree with that. Also, it's definitely not how it's ranked or how popular it is, but it's really just how you make of your experience there and what you do there. That you know, how like what Angela said. Sorry. That of how you build your resume or your CV, and finding that best fit so that you can make the most of your experience. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. So for me personally, I was choosing between Brown and another school that was like a little bit lesser known. It wasn't a Westbridge partner school, but I really, really love that school. Like, in fact, the only reason I decided to come to Brown was because I did a campus visit, and it was the fit thing, right? I felt like, oh my gosh, like these are the people I want to spend my time with. Like, I feel like this is the place where I want to be. So when thinking about prestige, I think it can be easy. And like I'll speak from my experience at least. Like I don't know, when I was in high school and deciding where to go, I had a lot of like, despite the fact that, like, you know, I was a part of the Questbridge program, I still had all these insecurities about like wanting to prove myself as like smart. And I think that can, if other people are having experiences like that, it can be easy to be attracted to prestige. But at the end of the day, you have to realize like you're gonna spend 4 years out of school, and so the only thing that's gonna matter is like your decision and like how like you're gonna be the person who has to spend 4 years at that school. And so is that gonna be a place where you're happy? I think that's the thing that should like come down and like make your final decision, is like, is this the place where you're going to be happiest, where you think you can be happiest, where you're going to be most comfortable, where you're going to have as much opportunity to do what you want. So that's my suggestion, is find the place. Like I say, focus a lot more on like fit, because again, like prestige is like, it really doesn't matter as much. A lot of the schools, especially the Quest schools, are academically rigorous. Like you're gonna be around some of the smartest people in the world, no matter where you go. So like it really isn't, when you're thinking about like, oh, like that school might be ranked higher than this school. It doesn't really matter. You're still gonna be around really, really smart people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely agreed. So fit is really the most important thing, and I know that fit is such an ambiguous term. And that's why, you know, taking all these different factors, you know, what size of the school you think is, you know, right for your personality, thinking about classroom size, what interactions you want to have with your professors, you know, the location of the school, the, you know, surroundings of it, and talking to students who are there right now. That's why all of those things are so important to do, rather than just kind of depending on the rankings. Great. So this next question, kind of along a similar line, is does an honors college or something similar really matter for career graduate school? So, you know, maybe if your school has a specific program that's, you know, like an honors program, does that really matter for your career graduate school? This is it's an interesting question, because it's, you know, obvious that this person is, you know, looking really far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing to know is that a large majority of students, you know, change their major during college, or completely change, you know, where they want, you know, what career they see themselves headed off to. So it's just something to consider, and to make sure that you might have options if you do decide to change your mind. That being said, do you guys have any advice, for thinking about specific programs within schools that students are really interested in, and how that, might affect future career choices? This is a pretty tough question.
I mean, like, so I don't really have an answer to that question, but I guess, like, since I don't have an answer, I would just suggest, like, talk to other people about it, like, talk to your college counselor, whether they know anything, like, feel free to email the people at these schools, like, just because, like, they're at college, or, like, just that doesn't mean they're not going to be open to your emails, so, like, feel free to reach out and, like, ask for more information. Again, like, students, maybe the people who work there, and, like, professors, so forth. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I don't really know much about it, so I don't have anything else, sorry.
No, that's fine. Actually, this question ties in a lot to the next one, which has to do, if your school doesn't offer a good major in a field that you're interested in, does that matter, or would it impact your decision to attend that school?
Well, like I said, like, for me, like, academics was literally number one. Like, that was something that that was going to be top priority for me. And so, like, when I was looking at the schools, I really was looking at, like, history programs and, like, women's studies programs especially too. And so, yeah, definitely, like, that would have changed, like, that was basically what I made my decision on, like I said. And so, yeah, but again, your interests might change, right, at the during the 4 years that you're there. And so, I don't know, like, I guess that's, I don't know, yeah, so that was just me.
I would say for me, I'm like a journalism, media studies person, and like, there are a lot of good journalism schools out there in the world, and Pomona isn't as good in journalism as a lot of other schools, but for me, it just really went along with this, like, fit thing. Like, I don't know, like, I visited some of the other schools that probably had, like, better journalism programs, and I just felt like I fit better with Pomona. Also, just like being at a liberal arts school, you gain critical thinking skills that will help you no matter what field you, like, end up going in. So, like, even though I'm not, like, doing a lot of, like, hands-on journalism, like a lot of production and stuff like that, like, I'm still learning critical skills for the journalism field. And also, like, I feel like I'm just really growing as a person, and, like, I'm like expanding my mind in ways I never thought I would. So, like, I just feel like wherever you graduate from, especially if it's a quest school, like, you're just gonna be prepared for anything in life. Like, honestly, like, it may, like, academics is an important thing, and, like, I feel like all the academic programs, especially at quest schools, should be, like, they're, like, top notch. So, yeah.
Like, for me, the sciences at USC isn't, like, the strongest, or in terms of all of, like, the majors that they provide, like, the sciences isn't the strongest, but like, I still, like, looked into it a little more, and they have, like, definitely look into the school too, because sometimes they have, like, like, internship opportunities for the community, or more hands-on opportunities that, even though, like, in terms of, like, or rankings and, again, like, rankings and prestige for that major isn't as great, just looking into the opportunities that they provide, and sometimes because that they're not as big on that major, sometimes they're even smaller, for, like, the school is smaller, like, your major is smaller, so you might even get more like, faculty, more interactions with faculty and stuff too. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, and for example, at Yale, there is no business major. I'm not really involved in that, but a lot of my friends are. And so they are mostly econ majors, and then they'll study, like, finance and all of the corporate stuff outside of class and get kind of internships and hands-on experience that way. So, like, just classes is not the only way you can look to get experience. I think, look at the different resources the school has, again, like clubs and volunteering, etc.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Hannah. Like Brown is similar to Yale in that, like I think for a lot of liberal arts schools, you're not going to find they might not necessarily have like major that correlates exactly with like a career, right? So like maybe you don't have a journalism major if you know you want to be a journalist, or like a like business marketing major if you know you want to go into like business. But I would say that doesn't necessarily have to like preclude you from trying to make that decision at that school. So like. For me personally, I was also really interested in like journalism and communications and media, and so there's not really any sort of major like that here at Brown. Like again, I'm studying history, but I think so. One of the things I did when I got to actually visit Brown was like I went to the career services department and told them about them. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to make this decision, but I'm really worried about like if I'm going to be able to like do what I want to do after college, because I'm not sure how am I going to make this. It's actually really funny because I made a joke. I was like, oh, like, what am I going to major in? Like history? And then like, but like, here I am actually. But I think at the end of the day, and this is something you'll learn at whatever college you go to, like your major isn't as important as you think it is. I think especially like it can be easy to think like, oh, like you need to have the major match the career. But like at the end of the day, like what like employers are really looking for is experience, right? So like that might just be being more cognizant about like what kinds of like opportunities you want to prepare for yourself in the summers, like kinds of jobs and things you might want to take on campus that can give you those same kinds of experience. And like the critical thinking skills you'll develop, especially at liberal arts colleges, are also like going to be really, really important to employers. So I would say like if you know that you're the kind of person who like wants like that specialized like experience, and you I want to be in this program and like that's what I want for me, like then I say go for it. But if you're on the fence and worried about it, I'd say don't let that stop you from choosing a college where you really feel like you belong, just because you're worried about like future career prospects.
Great. Yeah. Okay. That's great advice. I know it's kind of like a weird time because I think going into college you have an idea of what you want to do, and sometimes you're really set in that idea, and sometimes you're really on the fence about it. So I think the one thing about our Quest Ridge partner schools is that they all offer rigorous courses. So no matter where you end up, you're going to be able to find something that is a fit, that you're able to maybe kind of change to exactly what you're interested in. I know, I studied social policy, and I was very interested in education policy, and I was able to make that fit. So one thing, if you're interested in a particular program or department, reaching out to that department, seeing if there are students there who would be willing to email back and forth or talk on the phone with you about their experience, that can give you a good feel for what that's like. But ultimately, Stanley said, don't let it, a specific program or something, prevent you from really considering that school. Great. Okay, so we're going to answer this next question, and this is particularly about loans and scholarships. And by answer it, I mean we're going to say that you should be asking your financial aid office this. Financial aid office, the policies depend on each school, so you just want to check in with the advisor there, make sure ask this question to them, make sure you absolutely understand their answer, and make your decision based off of that. Okay. So we've talked about a lot of different things today, a lot of different factors to consider when making your college choice. Do you guys have any remaining advice that you'd like to offer?
I would say to write out like a list of like things that are your non-negotiables. So like you can list of things that are like really most important to you, and that like you really want factors that you really want to see in in the next 4 years, and and then listing the schools and having the list on one side, and then comparing and contrasting the different aspects of the school on the other, and seeing like how the schools that you're interested in match up with your non-negotiables.
Yeah, I guess my advice would be to like please like try to go and visit your schools. I feel like that was so crucial in my own decision making, and right after you're done with your visit or while you're at your visit, take notes, just so you can compile everything, because by the end, who knows how many schools you would have visited or deciding between, and who knows like what kind of details you're going to remember. So then by then you can really like have everything you need to make the right decision for you.
Yeah, I would say for me, um, just like really go with your gut. Don't stress out about it too much, but like just take the time to think about it and go with your gut. You're gonna get a lot of people telling you what to do. Your parents are gonna try to tell you what to do. Your like school's gonna try to tell you what to do. Your friends are gonna try to tell you what to do. But like I would just say think about what's best for you and like don't let all the other people like obviously go to them for advice because like they probably want the best for you, but like just like really zone into yourself and like make the decision that's best for you because at the end of the day you're the one who's going to have to go to this college and you're going to have to be there for 4 years and you want to have the best experience as possible because college is a fun time, but as long as you go to the right one, that's the part.
And I guess I would say like like reach out. Like so if you have any questions, like obviously like this like Google Hangout thing, right? Like this is like a huge resource, and so like QuestBridge is a huge resource. And like don't be afraid, like as we've all been saying, like if you have questions, like talk to the student, like talk to the professors, talk to the financial aid advisors at that school, go to the office of like career advising like at the school and so forth. And so just like reach out and like don't be afraid to like ask questions or like like ask their advice and so forth. And then I guess I don't know. I would say like even if the very worst happens, like you can always transfer, right? Like it's not gonna be the end of the world if you like choose the wrong school. And like again, like you're a big part of it. Like you're the one going to the school, right? So I mean, you can make it what you want it to be. And so like I wouldn't worry too much about choosing the right school. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just echo Ashley. I thought you said it. Like you're gonna be hearing, you're gonna have more advice than you know what to do with. Everyone's gonna tell you like, oh, you should go here, or you should go there, you should do this, do that, blah 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 blah. Like listen to everything everyone is saying, but at the end of the day, like that's advice, and the decision is in your hands. And so like again, like don't feel too much pressure about it, but like if you were like me, I was like really indecisive, and it can be like, oh, like how will I know if I'm making the right decision? Like what if I'm making the wrong decision? It's like no. At the end of the day, like you'll be fine. Like no matter where you go, you have the opportunity to create your own happiness, to find your place there. Like again, like worst case scenario, you just like really hate it. Like you won't be forced to stay there. Like you always have options. And I would say my biggest advice, and this is the advice my mom gave me, which is just like, keep your mouth open and don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can, because like especially if you're being able to visit colleges, this is going to be the one chance you really have to get all that information. So keep your mouth open and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay, great advice from everyone and from Stanley's mother. So as we wrap up here, one of the questions is how you can reach out to people in the Quest Scholars Network to get more information. A lot of that is Facebook or email. So you can join, there's a Class of 2019 Quest Scholars group. You can join that. Through there you might be able to find people at the college. I know there's the 2014 to 2015 Quest family. You might be able to find people in there. Generally, if you search on Facebook, you should be able to find the chapter groups for each school. But beyond that, you can also go to the questscholarsnetwork.org, and you can go to the different pages for all the chapters, and we have a contact email for the liaison at your school, and that's the main point of contact between QuestBridge and the campus chapter. And they should be able to either answer your questions themselves, or they can point you to someone maybe who is studying what you're interested in, who can answer the questions. And Vicky actually is a perfect example because she is a liaison at USC. So if you're thinking about USC, you can email Vicky. But that's a good way to get connected there. If you're having trouble finding contact information for people, you can email us and we can do our best. But we do recommend reaching out to the liaisons or looking around on Facebook. We'll be able to find someone on there, I can guarantee it. Okay, so I know we weren't able to get around to all the questions. If you have any very specific questions, you can email us. You can also email to those liaisons. But thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to all our panelists who were able to offer such wonderful advice. And we wish you the best of luck in your college decision.